Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture, and tonight I'm coming to you with a little something different. Tonight we start our new weekly Saturday night series of midnight movies. We're going to check out all of those great midnight movies that you know and some that you don't. So come with me, a little Chase AV Pop Culture after hours. Pour yourself a drink, pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. Well, it's late night Saturday night again, boys and ghouls out there in TV land. It's almost the witching hour. Time when the veil between this world and the spirit world is its thinnest. It's a time for monsters, a time for mischief, and a time for the Midnight Movie with Chase here at AV Pop Culture. All right. So, as I said, this is going to be a new weekly series here. We are going to do midnight movies. Now, if you don't know what midnight movies are, they're the old type of movies that you would have seen at like a midnight screening somewhere back in the day, an old drive in, an old movie theater, either in a small town or a big city, those that were open all night. And you would see everything from Rocky Horror Picture Show to The Warriors to grindhouse films, exploitation films, B horror, raunchy comedies, real raunchy comedies, sex comedies, things like that. It had a little bit of everything. Today, you might identify it more with something that you would have seen like Elvira do back in the day or Joe Bob Briggs doing now. It's kind of got that feel to it, but we're going to take it a little step further with some things that maybe you haven't seen, and definitely some things you have, but we're going to have a lot of fun talking about these movies and highlighting them each week. And I cannot think of a better one to start with than with the icon of this herself. We are going to start with the Arrow release of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I mean, you can't start with a more perfect film than Elvira when you're talking about midnight movies, because Elvira's movie macabre was like kind of groundbreaking when it came to that. I mean, when Elvira started off, Cassandra Peterson, who plays Elvira, she was making about $300 a week, sitting on a couch in a little room, recording, herself talking about these schlocky horror movies and things like that. And now she's, parlayed that into a mega $1 million empire. But this film, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark from 1988, was like really one of the first ones that she played herself in a sense. She played a character that she created. She played Elvira, Mistress of the Dark in the film. So she was already in character. And this film is a horror comedy. I mean, more emphasis probably on the comedy, but it just has that. I mean, Cassandra Peterson is one of the co-writers of this film, and she definitely she went for it. She knew exactly what her audience was. She knew that it was that even in this movie itself, she hosts a midnight movie. In this film, she hosts a midnight movie showing of a horror movie and to a full theater. And then she does a performance, very kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show, flash dance, style. She has a live performance with the movie. And I mean, this is what this movie is. This is what Elvira helped make famous, was bringing these schlocky B movies. And for her, it was more B movies. She couldn't really do as much grindhouse and exploitation films and like the hardcore horror the way that we can now with, because everything she did was mostly over the air. Even though it aired late at night, you still had your standards that you had to go by, and you couldn't do a lot of things. Well, On here we have YouTube standards to go by, but we're going to push what we can push when we're talking about these films. I'm going to show you what I can show you. We're going to talk about it. And so this film starts out, she's about to lose her job. She's basically doing her job as Elvira at the beginning of the movie. And she needs $50,000 to go and start a new headliner show in Las Vegas. And she's about to get fired. She's dead broke. And suddenly, Deus Ex Machina style, she gets a messenger come and say, "Oh, your aunt has died, and you have to go to Massachusetts from California for the reading of the will." And so she's dreaming of fortune and prizes. And there's like this little aside. I mean, it's totally B movie. Like it's totally aside into her imagination where it opens up and it's like the Price is Right. You've won a brand new Jeep Wrangler, and things like that. And she's imagining all this stuff because she wants this money. So she's imagining she hit the jackpot. She takes off cross country, leaving a trail of woe in her rear view mirror as she goes. She just kind of wreaks havoc and causes disturbances wherever she goes. And she heads across country and she gets to this town in Massachusetts that is very, well, let's say it's not very midnight movie, to say the least. It's very, very puritanical. It is puritanicals being nice. They have picnics about morals, and I mean, they don't let anybody do anything. The biggest trouble you can get into is going to the bowling alley. The movie theater, until she gets there, is only allowed to show G-rated films, and she has this great quote. She's like, "There's nothing wrong with G-rated films, as long as there's a lot of sex and violence." I mean, she is her, and if you ever like met her in person, like she just has those vibes. And so she comes to town in her, I believe it's a T-Bird that was customized. I believe they spent like $7,000 or $2,500 on like a T-Bird for her to drive, and then it was like $7,500 to really, pimp it out, so to speak, spruce it up, to make it look like her, car that Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, would drive. And sort of that heavy metal goth, vibe, horror vibe. And, she drives that into town. So immediately she's on everybody's radar. And the town leadership, they want her out of town on the first thing smoking. They want her right back out of town. And of course, all the teenage boys are in love with her immediately because she's Elvira and she's bursting out of her top. Her dress is cut up to her pelvis there, and doesn't leave a lot to imagination. So of course, all of these boys are paying attention to Elvira. And she uses it to her advantage. She has them help rebuild this house because, unfortunately, she doesn't get the money. So she gets a house and a cookbook and a dog. And, she's a little disappointed by that. And she's going to try to sell her house. And in the meantime, she's having a hard time selling it. The town's trying to run her out of town on a rail, and she just, she doesn't really know what to do. But no matter what she does, she's always so like just bombastic with everything because she's Elvira. So this movie has a little bit of everything because as it progresses in the plot, she finds out her uncle is basically like a warlock demon, wannabe demon of some sort, and he wants, the cookbook's not a cookbook, it's a spell book, and he wants it to basically like gain the powers of hell and in the world, so to speak. So she ends up having to try to stop him, and it's wackiness ensues. She finds out the dog is like a familiar. She finds out her lineage is as of a witch, and that leads her to almost get burned at the stake, because in order to get even with the townspeople, she casts a little spell. Now, she already inadvertently casts one spell that gives you one of the best set of practical effects in the film, like creature effects. She cooks up a casserole for this guy that she's, trying to seduce, who's like oblivious. She cooks up a casserole for him out of the spell book. And instead of a casserole, she gets this demon, this little creature that comes out and is trying to eat them. And it is a great bit of practical effects creatures. And it's definitely low budget practical effects, 80s practical effects. And I love that. That's part of what makes for a good midnight movie. You're not going to have a lot of good midnight movies that have just tons of like CGI, in my opinion. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for something that has, charm to it, something that you can gross out and kind of throw your popcorn and laugh with your friends, because midnight movies to me are experienced best in one of two ways. You either are in your house on your couch in a dark room with a couple of people, and it's you're watching a really scary midnight movie that way, or you are all loud and laughing and cutting up and having fun watching a silly, movie or any kind, film. You're just having fun and being loud with it. But honestly, the best way to experience a midnight movie is still in the theater with an audience. So like I will get sometimes, I'll watch midnight movies by myself. It's not quite the same. So, watch them with somebody, watch them with a couple of people. But we break down what's in this movie. I'm not going to give away like the total ending of the film, but we watch what's in this movie, and you have things like Elvira literally breaks open a chained fence with her boobs. She sticks her tits in between this padlocked and chained gate from in a graveyard when she's trying to get away from her demon uncle, and she can't pull it apart, so she sticks the girls in there and pops it apart. That's B movie gold. That is midnight movie slice of heaven right there. You've got, it doesn't get more midnight movie. It doesn't get more fun, don't take yourself too seriously, B movie that you want to enjoy and laugh at and just chuckle and have it be ridiculous while you eat your popcorn or drink your cocktail, than seeing the one and only Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, pop her cleavage through a gate and bust open the lock. That, you would think that maybe that would be the topper, that would be what is the most awesome B movie, midnight movie shout out in this film. But oh no, it isn't. It's not the practical effect of a demon casserole coming to life either. It is not that. I actually think the coolest, funniest B movie shout out, midnight movie. I mean, I would love to just see this pan up on a big movie screen again. I saw this movie in the theater as a kid. But there's a scene where she's fighting her demon uncle. That's what I'm going to refer to him as, her demon uncle, because I don't want to give everything away. She's fighting her demon uncle, and she runs into a sporting goods store. And if you really look, this is something else that's interesting when you see these midnight movies that have low budgets. You'll see sets and things from other films. Well, a lot of this Puritan town is the little square in Universal Studios. The same one where Back to the Future was filmed, Lost Boys, Monster Squad, all that little town is used again and again and again and again, especially when the budget's running low, or you need to portray a small town. Well, it's used here. And there's a big opening sequence. You can see they're actually having workers work on the church, which is also the clock tower in Back to the Future. And it's like, okay, we're covering this. This wasn't in Gremlins. This wasn't in Back to the Future. This wasn't in Monster Squad. No. Don't look at that. Look at this. This is now a little town in Massachusetts. Great Hollywood stuff there. But she is over there diving into a sporting goods store somewhere around where the Burger King would have been in Monster Squad and on the square. And she comes out and suddenly, and this is what's so great about movies like this, in the midnight movies, she's fully dressed when she goes into this store, and 10 seconds later, as the uncle is still walking chasing her, 10 seconds later, she comes back out. There's this huge iconic like slow motion pan up of her, and she has this big rocket launcher machine gun. She has changed clothes. Now her dress is like a skirt bathing suit bottom. She's popping out even more. She's got like commando style war paint on her, and she's got that strap, and it is purposely between her boobs, and they're popping out even more, and she's got that gun cocked, and it's this pan up, and it shows her there very commando style. And then it does the badass like action movie tight shot on the face as the eyes squint like an old Western, and she gets ready to fire. And she fires, and things maybe don't work out like she wants to, but it is such a it's such a cheat. It's such a cheat. It's the kind of thing that you're gonna see in a midnight movie, in a B-schlock horror movie. And to me, there's a couple of ways, a couple of things that make a midnight movie or a cult movie and make them great. And one of those things is if it knows what it is starting right out of the gate, right? Like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, Cassandra Peterson, she as Elvira, she had hosted countless numbers of these movies. She knew what her audience was. She wanted to have fun with it. Nobody's taking themselves too seriously in it. It is just ridiculous. Suspension of disbelief. Fun. It's just fun. The other way you can get a great midnight movie and cult movie is more inadvertently, to me. And that's when you get a film, and we may end up doing a couple of these films, a film like Showgirls or The Warriors, where it kind of starts out, it's taking itself absolutely seriously. Showgirls, Paul Verhoeven, I am a huge Paul Verhoeven fan. But the movie didn't work out. Like, it flopped. The Warriors kind of didn't do well when it came out. And these are massive, like, midnight cult movies, now. And what happens is they find a new life, a new audience where it's like, man, this movie, we appreciate everything in it that other people think is bad, because these people put their heart and soul into it, and there's good shit in it. Right? There is absolutely good shit in there. And that's when you get a movie like Showgirls or The Warriors, where there's good stuff. And later on, it finds its home. It finds its audience. There's another film, Donnie Darko, and we'll get into that one maybe too eventually, and I've got another video planned for that. But let's keep it here in the midnight vibes. Donnie Darko flopped at the movie theater. But when it found its way to home video, it set records. Over $25 million in sales, which was unheard of at the time. And now it is a cult classic. It is a rite of passage for millennials in a lot of ways. And it's just one of those movies that you have to see. And even if you don't understand it, don't like it, it's one of those that you need to say that you've seen. And that's sort of like what we're getting with the Midnight Movie. And it's exactly what Elvira did beautifully. It's one of those things where even if you don't follow horror, if you don't like if you think you don't like midnight movies, you like very highbrow, uh, you know, it's one of those things where you still know who Elvira is. You might, and so if you turn on this movie, you know what you're kind of getting from Elvira, and that makes her and this movie a perfect film for a midnight movie type viewing. And it's a lot of fun, and you got the sex appeal. All right, what are the key ingredients for a midnight movie? In my opinion, you need to have some kind of combination of these things. You need to have horror. You need to have raunchy sex comedy. You need to have good practical effects if you have horror. You need to have sexy ladies and guys if they are doing anything. Most of the time, you're going to want some kind of gratuitous nudity and violence in there. Even Elvira, she makes that joke. There's nothing wrong with G-rated movies as long as there's lots of sex and violence. She knows what her audience is. It's a midnight movie. You're going to need those things. These are the kind of elements you want. You want a little action, maybe a little grittiness, or on the other end, complete ridiculousness. You want sometimes these movies to be grindhousey and exploitive, very exploitation films. We're talking She-Wolf of the SS, where, it's a Nazi sexploitation type film, and it's a female blonde Nazi, if you haven't seen it, where it is like forcing prisoners to have sex with her, and if they don't bring her to satisfaction, she castrates them. I mean, it doesn't get more exploitation than that. I think there's an uncensored cut of that floating around out there somewhere by Anchor Bay. Very much a midnight grindhousey movie on the other end of the spectrum of Elvira here. Elvira is fun, B-movie, light, schlocky. I'm not even sure if Elvira may be rated... I don't even think it's rated R. Yeah, it's PG-13. And that's actually kind of surprising. I think that Cassandra Peterson herself, although she helped write the script, she could have went with R, but again, she had been hosting midnight movies that were, just more like old classics, old sci-fi. That's something else that can be a midnight movie, an old sci-fi film. Mind-bending, mind-twisting type films. And these are all kinds of things that we're going to go over with the Midnight Movie series here. And so you can look for all kinds of that stuff in here, deep conversations about it. I'm going to try not to give away the entire plot of every movie that we talk about. Elvira, it's a light movie. Things are probably going to turn out in her favor at the end. It's Elvira, and she wrote the script. And she worked what she had. Totally exploitation in that. She's exploiting herself. Her tits all the time. What she's wearing. There's scenes where she's undressing and guys are taking pictures of her through the window, and she just has a ball with it. And because that is what midnight movies are all about. It's either you're not taking yourself seriously, or you took yourself seriously and then nobody else did to start with, and then later they found the seriousness and stuff like that in it. Or there are those rare films, and we're going to get to those too, that were seriously targeted for a midnight movie type of feeling from the beginning. They were serious, they were critically acclaimed and everything, and they have just held on in there, and we're going to get to one of those in episode 2 next Saturday night. But right now, Elvira is on my mind. I watched it tonight. I can't show tons. I'm sure I've showed some as we've been talking, some video. But I took pictures of the screen as I was sitting here watching it because it's just so much fun. The color, the imagery, everything else. She paints her house in the film 50 different colors. It's just ridiculous and over the top because that is Elvira. That is Midnight Movies. And I hope that you have enjoyed this first episode of Midnight Movies with Chase After Dark here. And I have had a lot of fun. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Let me know what movies you would like to see me do as part of our Midnight Movies After Dark with AV Pop Culture here. And maybe we'll use them. If I do use them, we'll give you a shout out. I got some planned. I really, really enjoy doing series like this, and you're going to see others from me too, but this one was one that was on my mind from the minute I started this channel, because I think Midnight Movies are kind of like the foundation of what we do. Like almost, I think of most everything that Argento does. Demons, that's a midnight movie. I mean, it's hell, in the movie they're going to a midnight type movie, and then the demons come out. Like, these are all the things that midnight movies conjure in my imagination, and that's kind of what I with the start of Elvira here. That's kind of what I wanted to do with this first episode, was to find out from you what you like, what you think a midnight movie means to you, and kind of lay out what I think it means to me. And, we're going to go from there. And it's just going to get better and better and more fun. But there was no way to start a midnight movie series more appropriately than with a midnight movie icon herself, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So I hope you've enjoyed it. And until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture. I'll see you guys at the Midnight Movie real soon. Cheers. I know.